Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders to help it grow. Hey, Chris, good to see you. I love having you on every Tuesday. It's nice to catch up, and I love your perspective from the C-suite in terms of what is happening. And I love all of our guests. It gives us a little bit different perspective of what's happening. So, and I know you're very busy. So thank you very much.
A little bit.
I cannot emphasize that enough. Joseph Coleman in the house. Joseph, I want you to come on and talk, just so we didn't really wrap up America East in this atmosphere. And what was the overall, first of all, how many attendees were there and what was the overall atmosphere?
There were 290 in-person attendees and about, I think, 150 online. So the big session was a glorified Zoom call from SBA officials, which was fun. I mean, it's
Let me get this. You had 140 faces, or
no, just
you just had the presenter or something.
Yeah, Diana and Miller were on Zoom, and they did a fun little skit again with Ethan and Jennifer. That was funny. But the dynamic of the room was all the vendors were saying how busy they are, how record-breaking years kept everybody, all the vendors you think of, environmental, business valuation, insurance, life insurance, all the companies that help the SBA lending industry. I talked with all of them. I interviewed most of them. They said they're exhausted trying to keep up with the lending departments that are having record-breaking years. And so a lot of people had to hire contractors. A lot of people had to, I mean, it's a good problem to have, it seems like, for many
yes.
companies. However, it's getting to a point where the work is so much that everybody's pretty burnt out. So
what about the lenders, Joseph? Did you talk to lenders?
I talked to a lot of lenders as well. They said the same thing. They had growing pains. Getting to $27.5 billion in 7A loans was not easy, and it was a communal effort for every SBA lender in the country. A lot of managers had issues of dealing with virtual employees while doing this So a lot of people are busier than ever, and excited to be that busy. However, it's growing pains. So that was the sentiment from what I talked to.
Chris, how have you handled your growth?
Well, I mean, all the things that Joseph just mentioned about regular SBA programs, let's not forget, for 5 months, a lot of us were doing gobs and gobs of PPP as well. We at one point, we had more contract employees than we have full-time employees. Now, we had them all working on PPP. We kept our full-time folks only working on other SBA loan programs. But yeah, I think it's a real problem. I mean, we've all, as citizens, have dealt with the pandemic on a personal level, which has caused lots of problems to everyone. We all know about that. But then as the lending community, especially, particularly the SBA lending community, yeah, we've all for the last year and a half, and there's a lot of burnout. I'm regularly concerned, daily concerned about the well-being of our employees. Check in a lot more than I used to, and try to give them opportunities to express themselves, sort of share the misery, that type of thing. But to keep us focused on our bigger purpose anyway. But it's been a brutal year and a half, and it's not just the lending community; it's obviously SBA.
Brutal is a great description, and we are officially dog days of summer, which is always. And kids are starting to get back to school and whatever, but it's tough. Hey, we have some poll questions which follow up on this, and it's for I'd like everyone to know what's going on. For you personally, what's your preference?
You're asking me, Bob?
Well, I'm asking. Yeah, because this is no right answer. It's just what I'll start with you, Chris. What's your preference? Remote, hybrid, or 100% office?
At this point, my preference is hybrid. Yeah, just like the voters here. That's the same preference for me personally as it is for our company. I mean, I think I've said before on your show that we've had probably a third to 40% of our employees worked from home prior to the pandemic, so obviously that's continuing. But we have some people that are concerned, particularly about the new variant, or have family members that live nearby or with them that we're continuing to let them work hybrid, which actually working from home. But I think we're in completely new territory here. I think everybody's
absolutely.
For the most part.
Yeah, we're not going. This is the new normal. We're not going back.
Right.
And I think I already know what the answer is going to be, but let's ask it. Do you feel burned out personally?
There we go.
There you go.
I have no comment on that. I mean, it's tough.
I resemble them. Yeah.
Finally,
there's a lot of burnout in the SBA world. So hopefully we get past this fiscal year, where I know a lot of people are working really hard to get deals done between now and the end of September, and maybe everybody can take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather. Maybe fourth quarter will be a little bit more relaxing to most SBA lenders. We'll see.
And is your workplace fully open, whether you're hybrid or remote or whatever? Do you have an office that's fully open to everyone? Wow, I'm surprised at that. I thought it'd be a lot less.
Yeah,
but still 25% are still closed or partially closed.
Ours is fully open, but give it a few weeks. Yeah. These statistics might change. These results might change.
Yeah, and hopefully we don't go backwards in any places. Well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, I wanted to follow up with, we talked about this. I wanted to follow up on a conversation yesterday with Paynet. I love their stuff. Joseph, do we have, and I was thinking we didn't, there we go. We didn't really have a graph.
Yeah.
And this gives you an idea of what the demand is, and if you compare that with the recession, see way back that bottom, that was the recession where, the demand was there, but the supply was not. And this greatly illustrates what we've been talking about as a common theme in these broadcasts, and that is, this is not what happened during the Great Recession. Great Recession, capital was difficult to obtain. Not everyone can get it. And here is completely opposite. Capital is available. Their stats says lending increase in 17 of 18 industry. The largest monthly increases in 8 industries include surprise, healthcare. This one's a surprise, retail, trade, and professional services. But everything is up. I can't. Someone's going to say, what's the one that's down? I don't see that offhand. But anyway, I wanted to follow with some sense. Go back one slide also, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see this is, and when they talk about lending, they're including everything. They're including vendor credit. They're including all types of lending. So obviously there was a dip when everything was closed, but you can see how quickly that responded, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Now, I just wonder if some of these statistics include PPP, which would suggest.
Absolutely. I'm sure it does. Yeah, and that's that. Joseph, bring us up to date on the Shuttered Venue Operating Grant Program.
They are, let's see, 11,000 grants for $9 billion. They're currently reviewing 1,000, and 1,300 really have not been reviewed. So they're coming in slowly. They're trickling in. As opposed to the restaurant, this is still active. And they say the applications will be finished before they start. Sorry, I'm going this on the fly, but I know that they're accepting applications, they're awarding them, and the money is getting out to the venues that need it desperately, that were closed and didn't have a choice in the matter of having outdoor, concerts or anything like that.
I went against my notes. Delaney, are you there? Is there anything else you want to add, Delaney?
Yeah, I'm here. There's not much else I want to add. Joseph really touched on it. They're just finishing up about 500 applications from the original application period. And then once they get through that, they'll start working on, I think there's about 1,600 other supplemental award applications.
Delaney, is demand going to meet supply, or people are going to be cut out?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating that for me?
Sure. Is demand going to hit, is there going to be enough loans for demand from those operators?
Yes, I definitely think so. They still had a few billion remaining when they originally finished this up. So with all these new applications, hopefully they will be able to fulfill those.
Great. Thanks, Delaney. Thanks for that. Hey, we have a question from Christian. Thanks for the question. Would you please let us know if a bank can still modify a PPP loan that currently has a 24-month amortization to a 5-year amortization? Chris, can we do that?
Yes. Yeah, the lender can make that unilateral decision to modify, even if the loan was prior to June 5th when they were all 24 months.
We'll do that. Just notify SBA what we've done.
Yep.
Vicky has a great question, Vicky. I'm going to hold this over till tomorrow with Lance. It has to do with the stamping that note in full. But Vicky, reread what you sent me in that notice. I think it only applies to, anyway, we'll reread that part, and we'll address that tomorrow if the lender is required to stamp paid in full on all of these PPP loans. Chris, what else is happening in the marketplace? I know you're at the forefront of talking to Congress, talking to people in what you're thinking. Anything you want to see change today?
Yeah, I've been thinking. I actually sent something over to SBA this morning to some folks. I was kind of, it just hit me last night. We've seen daily statistics on PPP originations started last year. I think a lot of us are familiar with the little tickler that they had, which maybe it caused more panic than it was worth. But and then eventually SBA, particularly this year, started releasing weekly statistics on PPP origination, and it broke it down to a number of different ways to look at the data. I don't know why we're not doing that for forgiveness. I think that would make a lot of sense. I think it would be great as a way to kind of encourage the lending community that SBA is sort of watching and is expecting these things to tick up in terms of loans that have been submitted for forgiveness. And I think it'd just be it would be helpful. I think it would be the kind of nice pressure on the borrowers to get this done by addressing it to the lenders and obviously keeping track of this stuff on a weekly basis. So I hope they'll take my suggestion and run with it. The only other thing that I think we could fix about some of the PPP loans is we never got a regulation this year on the 50,000 and under PPP loans, where obviously the lender processing fee got changed a bit, and we know Treasury issued regulations back in April of 2020, and then of course there was in the new law in late December, we know what we could pay the maximum to a loan agent on the other types of PPP loans, but we never got clarity on this, and I think it's something that's been overlooked, and I think it would be an easy fix for SBA to release something, maybe just as one of their FAQs perhaps. But those are two things that I've been thinking about that I think would make the situation better for the lending community.
How much of a problem is that in the industry, Chris, not having clarity? Are the agents wanting more of a larger piece of the pie, and they're saying, hey?
Well, yeah, and I mean, and there's just, none of us as lenders like to have ambiguity out there, and I think it just left a bit of a void. We just don't know really what we can or can't do in that regard, and I think it seems like it's a fairly simple fix.
Well, especially when the government's paying for it, they should say, this is the max you can bill, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Really
so those are my thoughts.
Those are your two thoughts. Good. I know Congress is out of session, or the House is out of session, so we'll see what happens when they come back.
Well, House is back. I mean, they just came back. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, but we'll see what happens on that. The changes on them. Hey, we have a cool webinar coming up on credit memos on loans over 350, and the other one that we're getting a lot of traction on is on the CPSC program 2 weeks later. Joseph, I have no idea what that is. That's giving me a headache. Move on.
Yeah.
Joseph, I understand your audience. A lot of us have trifocals.
Well, basically, it's just saying there's $27.5 billion for for 7A.
Okay, go back. Okay, go back.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, the agency says that we're not going to run out of funds, but what do you think? Do you think that this is too much, or are we going to be okay?
I think it's going to be really close.
Yeah. Okay.
I know a couple of weeks ago I said, yeah, I think we're going to be okay, but I haven't looked at the recent weekly approvals, but I know that it jumped up quite a bit, say 3 or 4 weeks ago when there were some rumblings that the infrastructure bill might actually pull some SBA allocations over to try and help pay for it. Now, the reality is the speaker just called the House back into session yesterday, special session because of the infrastructure bill and the budget. I still think it's going to be a few weeks to get passed into law, and by the time they get there, my guess is we're really close to the end of this fiscal year. So I still have my doubts that there's going to be much money yanked out of SBA to help.
Yeah, but we had the 10% override.
Yeah, exactly. So because of that,
we're not going to have a lending holiday that
I
for
hope
those
not.
in the past, we had the lending holiday hit in what, May, April, June? I don't know.
Yeah, we've had enough of those over the last couple of decades.
Government shutdowns.
Yeah, I really.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for that, Joseph. That's a wonderful chart. Maybe figure out how to fix it next time. Yes, the webinar is tomorrow. Lance and I are going to be doing it for loans over 350. The credit memo, very SBA specific. It is different than your conventional credit memos, and there are things you have to do. We're still under COVID requirements. In fact, probably more than ever, we need to address that. We sort of had a cavalier, or I had a cavalier attitude in May. It looks like everything's getting back to normal. And it's not. So from a credit perspective, we need to address this. And the SPIC is going to be pretty cool, and that's in a couple of weeks. And we have Marty Teckler at Blank Rome who's going to be talking about that. And encourage your CFOs to hop on, or whoever's involved with that. That is, there's some pretty cool stuff happening there that benefits both Main Street as well as the individual lenders. Chris, thank you very much for your time. As always, I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live of Supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Take care, everybody.